Welcome to Under the Blanket with your host Baba Love and Jagadesh. All
Namaste.
right, so today's episode is about practice, 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 and it's a perfect time for probably a lot of people out there to practice with what's going on in the world. So, we're going to go over some practices and how they affected our life today. What are your thoughts on practicing in these challenging times, Jagadesh?
Yeah, it is kind of challenging for a lot of people right now. This virus, this is what we're referring to as kind of um, manifested itself into our reality, and it's done something that I've never seen in my lifetime, and I don't know if anybody's ever really seen it. That a virus has shut down basically most large groups or all large groups, and you're confined to your house for the most part. But for shopping, a lot of people are laid off. I'm actually currently unemployed, have to apply for emergency unemployment. So challenges arise, and luckily I've been in a good place lately. The last few months, I've been doing a lot of sadhana, which is practice, spiritual practice. It's a Sanskrit word for practice, and I've been feeling relatively confirmed and consistent. And I could get all blown out of proportion about this in my mind. I mean, a lot of people at my job are like, oh no, it's the end. I mean, some people were kind of like, oh yeah, I get some time off. It's like, it all comes down to perspective. Um, and just seeing that the, it seems like truth is only relative from to where you're standing. Sounds like something Ram Dass would say. I think he may did say that, but it's all relative. It's like, where are you at in your mind, and how are you reacting to your reality, whether it's coronavirus or just small things. In a way, I feel like this coronavirus is bringing people together. There is fear element, but there is a sense when catastrophe happens, people tend to come together and reach out and help each other. Like in 9/11, everybody just jumped in and started helping, and that's unfortunate that it takes these kind of events for people to see that that's what it's all about. Um, so in a way, I'm hoping this coronavirus. Terrence McKenna, I believe, said that viruses are nature's immune system. So it comes through and it wipes out something, or it does something. It rattles stuff up, and it creates a little damage, but it just lets us know that we're not in control ultimately. So, and that's what practice is about relinquishing the fact that, I mean, we're in control of how our inner world is. That's ultimately what we have control over, our reactions and how we respond to things. So that's just kind of overall viewpoint, but separate individual practices that's can be expanded on for sure, and what works for me and for you. So
Well, I feel what you're saying, and I feel that this is the end times as far as we're transitioning into a new uh, period in human consciousness. I think that Trump's the symbol, like the Antichrist, and the false leader who represents our ego. It's like we all have a little Trump inside us that thinks everything revolves around us, and the coronavirus is forcing us to have an inner revolution in the sense that more people will go within enough of the people that it will create a new consciousness through vibrational change of more people changing their consciousness, and that vibration will connect with everything in the world, and it will bring us together, like you were saying, in some sort of way. When all this is said and done, we'll be embracing each other more. We'll be glad to see each other because we'll be less, well, if we go into deep quarantine, that is, which looks likely. So, and we'll also have a sense of we need more social programs. We need things to money spent to provide a safety net. We'll probably have a universal basic income. We'll probably have universal health care and things like that after all this crisis is over and the new consciousness. And who knows how long that's all going to take to really settle in or if it will happen at all. I don't pretend to know. That's just what I feel looks like is happening. And I hope it's happening too. And
I
so let's
yeah.
get into our individual practices. So, Jagadesh, how about you tell us the practice and how it worked for you and so
Okay. First, I'd like to say I appreciate your optimism in this time because, in general, about bringing this new consciousness, this new heaven, this new earth into reality. It's something a lot of people are lacking. Is that strong faith, belief, and trust that this is an opportunity for us to awaken. So thanks for pointing that out. As far as practices go, man, well, right now I have a few individual practices that I've just been doing, and both are kind of I feel from my gurus, one guru, but through two particular sat gurus that I've had a time to spend in person time with Amma, Matamritanandamai, also known as the Hugging Saint, and I got to one of her back 2004, and it involves some breathing, some visualization, some a little yoga, like this and that, right? And it's kind of a kriya. Uh, Yogananda taught kriya yoga, but you know, I never did it on a consistent basis, and I have a horrible time doing it. Like, I have a hard time concentrating, but there's a part where you pray for the grace of the master before and afterwards, and then you pray for the world, and just those two actions and that intention. So practice comes down to having intention, and it comes down to having just like some passion. I was talking about this the other day. That passion is essential to practice for me, because first off, if I never read Be Here Now, if I never took LSD, if I never read Miracle of Love, if I never met Amma, I would have a lot less passion, or I may not even know of these realms and opportunities. But this Hindu path, I guess I'm not Hindu, but I do a lot of the practices from the Hindu path because I met my guru in the Hindu path. And but the thing about it is, it doesn't limit me to any path, especially in the case of Neem Karoli. I feel that he was the master who would point people to other pointers, things pointing to the truth, and ultimately, until you put it into practice and then start to experience and embody it. My first practice ever is very, very simple, and it's Ram, and that's still a core part of my practice. That's very easy. You can do it any time of the day. You get a mala and you just do it. And even if you don't even know you're doing it, you feel the mala in your hand. And this is how it happened for me. I felt the mala in my hand, and I was thinking about all the other things. I said, "Oh, I'm still doing the beads. There's a subtle part of me that's still connected to the Ram, and that's the source. It's God, Ram. It's the same as self. It's just putting a name on it." But Neem Crowley, that was his practice. So when you're connected in a lineage or with a master on some level, whether physically or on any other level or dimension, you have inherently, it's installed into you, and everybody's connected. And it's just plugging in. It's just plugging into these different sources. Now, Buddhism is another. I like sitting practice, sitting in silence and just watching thoughts. Tend to do that more with groups, but that's a really great way to just watch the uncomfortability and learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. um, And there's a point where you reach the stillness and the silence if you wait long enough and relax into it. But yeah, chanting is really especially powerful in this day and age too. A lot of masters have said that. So connecting it with music in some way, now that's something that's available to everybody, and that's why we get so stimulated when we listen to music. But we're directing the energy in the wrong way a lot of times when we're listening to some of this music. But when you're on the spiritual path, I think you've experienced this, Eric, where it's like no matter what the music is, you can direct it. And that's actually kind of a tantric method of taking any stimuli and directing it towards the heart or God or the self and raising that energy up. And that's why you hear Christian rock and all is like it all revolves around music, whatever path is. Like music's essential to our heritage as being humans and sound. So,
Yeah, thank you for sharing some of those practices. And I would like to go over the practice of that I've been doing recently. It's on the Ram Dass Guided Meditation Library that's
mm,
recently come out, and Ram Dass is the one who will be here now, or who was involved in that. And one of the meditations I just found, they must have dug into the archives and found this one because it wasn't on YouTube, and it was called Just Be. And I just listened to Ram Dass, and he guides me into getting here. He starts with, being here, and then you just be, and then basically you keep the you keep being, and phenomena arise like sensation, thought, all that kind of stuff. And when it arises, you just be with it. You put return to just being as it arises, and you notice how your mind will cling to something and go on a train of thought about it, or train of something that goes along and clings to, keeps you being involved in that. The point is with this meditation to let that go to what you're experiencing in the here and now,
mm,
and just be with that. And then you keep letting go of what you're clinging and just being. And it's about 10 minutes long, and I find that as a practice that just lately I've been doing. And now, as
yeah,
far as the practice I've done in the past, well, I'll go into how about the practice of kirtan. I found that like I'll set up an altar and look at a picture of a guru, or something that reminds me of my higher self, and sing to it. And I'll sing, like, say, for in college I used to love singing Krishna Das a lot, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and for hours, and really get into that.
yeah,
And I have also been involved with just singing rock and roll songs. I feel if you do it in the devotional sense, and you keep your mind focused on God, whatever song you sing, if you're singing it toward God, can be a practice. Although repetitive mantras seem to be more helpful in many times. So I recommend starting with repetitive mantra for that
mm,
kirtan, like
mm,
certain mantras with that, or whatever it be, Buddhist, Hindu, or whatever, or
mm,
Christian songs that are repetitive, whatever it is.
mm,
But then you can move into whatever song you want when you get the hang of focusing on a
mm,
higher, the universe, or God, or higher love, or whatever it is, and focusing your mind on that and getting lost in love.
mm,
Miraji said, who is, the blanket guy, he said, how people asked him, how do I meditate? And he said, get something like this. He said, get lost in love. Meditate like Christ did. He said that. And then they said, well, how did Christ meditate? I mean, it's not in the Bible how he meditated, right? So Raji said he
mm,
got lost in love.
mm,
So that sounds similar to bhakti yoga, but I guess whatever practice you do, you get lost in love. So
mm.
yeah, so that's the practice. So two practices I like to share. What are some more practices and how they impacted you, Jagadesh?
Um, Well, yeah, really like what you had to say about being lost in love, and it's an interesting thing because you have awareness and love. So on the awareness end, which they both end up in the same place. Ram Dass like to say loving awareness, and I've tried that. I think that same meditation or some of Ram Dass's meditations and the being one is really powerful. Um, Another one, and I think it may have been Bhagavan Das at some point told me this. It came up. We were talking about sitting practice, and he's like, when you go to your altar to sit, he's like, just sit to love the mother. Just sit to love God, and that's definitely bhakti, you know. But I'll this little ritual for me. I really like the Joe Campbell book, The Power of Myth. But the idea behind that book and a lot of his concepts from a lot of cultures, the rituals, the shaman, the priests, the pujaris, they all had essential roles in the culture, and maybe the highest role in these small indigenous cultures and tribal cultures, um, Native Americans. But they had a doorway through their ritual to the transcendent state. So when I say sit to love the mother, um, I sometimes refer to God as she because I really honor and connect with that motherly force and Mother Nature. So sit to love the mother. I light some candles, light some incense, and just sit in silence and maybe, you know, look into the photos I have, all the divine beings I have on my altar and gurus, and just I see them smiling back at me and I feel love in my heart. And it's just such a simple thing, you know, picking a flower and offering it. Um, Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, I don't know what chapter right offhand, but that if even one offers me a leaf with pure devotion, they're truly, you know, special to me. I don't know what the exact words were, or you know, it fills you up. Um, the devotional practices and chanting, uh really powerful. The chanting, I like what you said about repeating over and over and over, and the point of that is to something else that Bhagavan Das said to me. Actually, he said when he had an Amma CD, I drove him in my car once to a yoga studio in Philly, and he was in my car, Bhagavan Das, and I had Amma playing, and he starts beating on the dashboard, and he's like, I used to play her CDs all the time. And I was like, why? He's like, to get the imprint. He's like, to get the imprint. So when we're repeating something over and over and over and over and over again, we're getting the imprint. Just like if we're doing something negative over and over and over, we get the imprint. But so what do you want to imprint? Is the question. So affirmations, very powerful. You know, visions, you know, visualizing things and experiencing that you already have them. Like that's another powerful practice, kind of leaning on the new agey side, but there is a lot of relevance to it. But I believe the core of all these practices in some sense is to come to the present moment without being in a thought state. And the mantra does that too, because it puts you, it focuses on one point, and the meaning behind the word mantra is to protect the mind. So what it focuses you on one point and pushes all the other thoughts out until you have one repetitive thing going on and on and on, and then you break through into the silence, the true silence of mind, and things just happen. You know, like beauty just happens, and everything is so much more filled with grandeur and beauty, and you're so grateful for life. You know, but you got to beware, as the Buddhists would say, you know, that's not it either. That's not, that's being in bliss. It's touching your true nature, but the true nature is steady no matter what the situation is. And it's easy to experience it in these states, but then, you know, your house falls on top of you and you're being crushed. It's like how, where do you go then? So that's why we practice is for those situations too, because then it's automatic.
Yeah. Uh, I would like to go over something that's maybe hasn't. Well, it's like sort of like a practice of mindfulness and an activity, so it's been around for a while. But social media is something that a lot of people are involved with lately. And what about making social media a yoga? And I
Mm,
found the news feed is helpful in this. Just all you do with this practice is as you scroll down, you keep returning to the witness where the and this is just the witness practice basically. You could do this with everything. But you return to the witness and you watch how every post triggers the ego. Like, for example, you'll see a post about a flower. Your ego will go, wow. And then you'll see a post about a news story about something bad happened. Oh. Or someone just had their family member die. Oh. And then someone said something you upsets you politically about how great Trump is and how Mexicans should go back to their country. You go, ah. And then so what you do is you keep pulling back from the reactive nature of the mind and being the witness, and then you'll notice how the more you do that, the reactions settle down and settle down, and it doesn't
mm,
really matter what they do because the more you be in the witness, the more you're at peace with it anyway. Because the witness is not judging, is not desiring, is not any of that. It's just witnessing from
mm,
a place of peace. There's different levels of the witness. There's like an ego level of the witness, which like notices and notices and notices. It's calmer, but it's still ego. It's not that transcendent
mm,
witness yet, but that using that it can eventually get you to the transcendent point, which
mm,
is kind of a yana yoga thing maybe.
mm.
So I think that would let's how about we you read us a story from Miracle of Love and
Yeah.
we'll comment on what it means for that. So hopefully we'll intend now for the story to be related to what we're talking about, because that would be great. So Miraji, you are all formed. Help this book communicate your message for us now. Hopefully related to what we're talking about, Miraji. You know what's best for us. So Jagadesh will read the story and we'll both talk about the story.
Okay. Hold on one second. Okay. Um, Making sure I'm reading the right thing. Yeah. Okay. Uh, the waves crashed on the rocks, a sound that Sudesh loved as he sat feeling the freshness of the spray on his face. Voices echoed around him, and he could feel the vibration as people jogged along the beach and his sightless eyes turned towards the movement. He had been coming to this spot for many months now, ever since he had shifted to Mumbai after his mother had passed away. The sound of the sea invoked a vision that he could only feel, not see. He could smell the delicious puris that Ram Prasad was frying, very near to where he sat. Every day the cheerful proprietor would look for a moment when there were few customers and hand over a plate of piping hot puris and delicious potato curry to the gentle blind man who sat there, so young and so complaining. Sudesh heard the tinkling of anklets near him. Who is this? He asked curiously. May I sit here? Asked a soft voice, and he had a sudden mental vision of a lovely young girl, delicate and lively. Do sit down, he invited. That is, if you have nothing else to do. He heard the thud as she sat down beside him and sensed the smile of her voice. I am a regular customer of Ram Prasad's and a great fan of his puris. He told me about you the last time I was here. They were interrupted by Ram Prasad, who brought two plates of hot puris and then sat in silence, munching away contentedly, not wanting to break the silence. You haven't told me your name, Sudesh asked suddenly. Kavita. she replied, and the ice was broken. They began to talk about all kinds of subjects. And Suggest tried to conjure up her face. Was she short or tall, fair or dark? He sensed that she had long hair and sparkling black eyes. Judging by the easy way she laughed, her heart shaped face would have an expression of mischief, and there would be. Um, I'm going to stop reading this. This is too long.
Well,
I'm
what's the
sorry.
gist of it? You left us hanging, Jagadish. Come
The
on,
thing
what's
is
to
that I
happen?
don't even know if that was a
I
Baba
read the
story,
damn
y'all.
story because it's like I was following that. I need to know. So how long is it? Because please read it, however long it takes. It can't be that long. What is it?
um. Okay. Okay, you haven't told me your name, Sadish asked suddenly. Kavita, she replied, and the ice was broken. They began to talk about all kinds of subjects, and Sadish tried to conjure up her face. Was she short or tall, fair or dark? He sensed that she had long hair and sparkling black eyes. Judging by the easy way she laughed, her heart-shaped face would have an expression of mischief, and there would be a round red bindi in the center of her forehead, which he wished he could have a glimpse of her. What did she feel when she looked at him? Pity? He hoped not, because he hated being pitied. The hours flew by as though they had wings. They had already drunk 2 cups of masala chai, and the breeze had grown stronger. As the sun prepared to set in the horizon, Ram Prasad was closing up shop, and it was time for Sudesh to go home as well. Good night, Sudesh ji. Kavita's voice tinkled in his ear. Will I see you again? He asked, rather ironically, and she laughed as she replied, Why not? You could keep me away from Prasad's tories. Sudesh heard her go with a strange pang in his heart. He had never felt this way before. For a change, he kept sitting, immersed in his own thoughts. He felt a warm glow at the thought of his new friend. But how could he, a blind man, harbor such thoughts about any girl? He tried to imagine Kavita's face again. Maybe she was like a poem herself. Judging by her name, he imagined her large, lustrous eyes smiling at him, giving him hope. And suddenly his shoulders slumped. How could he expect a beautiful young girl to marry a blind man like himself? When Rob Prasad came by to guide him back home, he found him sitting listlessly, a picture of dejection. Sudesh Babu, I thought meeting Kavita would have cheered you up. Instead, you are sitting like a monument of despair. Sudesh got up with difficulty and groped around for his cane. Ram Prasad, don't introduce me to any more girls, he groaned. I like Kavita, even though I have no hope that she will ever reciprocate. Ram Prasad whooped in joy. Congratulations, Sudesh Baba. She is a lovely girl. He went on happily. I have been trying to bring you two together for some time now. As Sudesh heard him out of disbelief, he said, She is a beautiful person. When she was young, she was involved in an accident in which she lost her eyesight. Never once had she complained or thought of it as a disability. Sudesh listened, lost for words. He was elated because now he could ask Kavita to marry him. He was strangely happy that he himself was blind, because he could always imagine her large, lustrous eyes looking back at him in hope and love. Okay. That was a great story, but it wasn't a Neem Karoli Baba story.
Was it from Miracle of Love?
No.
I said read something from Miracle of Love.
I tried to look up something on the spot because I
Dude,
left
I
my book
said
over
pray
there.
Miracle of Love. It's
Can
okay.
you edit that
I
out?
think the message of regardless, I'm gonna go with that story. So the story is about true love, and I believe, like maybe we all can't really see each other, and we're all that blind couple, and we all got to come together and imagine each other because we really are seeing when we look at another person. What do we see? We see our own projections. We see our desire system. We see what attracts us, what repels us, what we like, what we don't like about the person, and that constantly changes. We never really see the person unless we see them like that blind couple saw each other as love, true love. So that's the message of the story. And there, I just made it a message. Ha ha! I win.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's actually a good story, you know. And like because they were blind, he got a feeling in his stomach. He got a feeling of this closeness with this person that he couldn't even see, but it was that energy, that feeling, that was the love, you know. And his fears of rejection didn't let him experience that love. So it's the same with everything else in life, really. I mean, that was probably a Neem Karoli Baba story, but not a Neem Karoli Baba story because there was a message there, you know.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, it's all a Neem Karoli Baba story.
Right. It's all one. Exactly. Subek. And you
So
know
that
what? My battery's running a little low, so it's been a long enough episode. Let's end it with a little chanting. And
okay.
Jagadesh, what do you think Miraji feels we should chant?
Let's just do let's do like 18 ROMs.
All right, lead us off.
Ram, ram,
Rum,
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 ram,
rum, rum,
ram, ram.
rum, rum. Thank you for joining us with Under the Blanket with Baba Earlove and Jagadesh.